does it look like to think from your heart? Like, again, the way I know neurons is I know them to carry information.
Yes.
And so if I'm thinking from my heart as opposed to thinking from my brain, is there a way that I would know the difference?
So there was a team of a husband-wife team of researchers back in the 70s known as the Lacey's that discovered that the heart has its own intelligent language. So when we think about thinking, we think from a mental standpoint in terms of, sentences, thought patterns. But what the heart speaking to us is a completely different language that centers around intuition, right? Which is this knowing, this guidance, this sort of, I don't know what it is, but I don't want to go on a second date with that person, or I just feel guided to email that person. It's a deeper knowing, Dr. Mindy, and it doesn't speak the same language as we're used to. So one of the things about coherence, as we center the heart, brain, nervous system, there's this calming effect. Another analogy I use in the book is like a lake, right? When you calm the lake, you can see the rocks on the bottom. But when it's chaotic, when you're in coherence, it's very disordered. You don't really, that's where confusion comes. You don't know what's left or right. So as we become coherent, one of the most powerful things that arises is clarity, right? I've been working with clients for so many years on their lifestyle and their diets. People say to me all the time, I don't know when I'm hungry. I don't know what my body's telling me to eat. I don't know when I'm really tired, right? Because we've lost that clarity. So we don't get there from a mental place, doctor. We get there from this powerful, here I am, just true self, right? Not the thoughts, but then we get to this place of this real stillness that the Tao Te Ching talks about, that Eckhart Tolle is talking about. Because I used to listen to his lectures and say, but how do we go beyond thought? How do we actually do that?
Well,
so this presence is, meditating for so many years, and then the thoughts come in. But as you learn these simple tools and techniques, and the heart-aligned meditation, which we did the research paper on, which is featured in the book, you actually come into this heart brain and you start turning on these neurons, and it starts to get everything in alignment. And I can just say experientially, the last few years since I've come into this work, doctor, just the calmness, the more fulfillment. And yes, the numbers have gone great, but just enjoying my life, feeling more deeply connected to my husband and my kids and the day. I used to be a perfectionist. I used to be so wrapped up in achievement and always on that hamster wheel, which is actually known as the propelled heart stage 2, where we're always going. There's a major, incredible antidote to stress, comparison and judgment, all these things I hear about in our community. People are always asking about from the heart.
It's interesting because for a good portion of the back half of my clinical career, I helped really sick people get well. And part of my job was to recreate their lifestyle. Part of my job was to put a team around them that supported and helped them find their own path to healing. I was always like, you're going to do the healing. I'm not doing it. I'm just here to create the container and to guide you. And all the time, I would, when I would get a test result back, I would say, here's what the test results are. Here are options of what we can do. Now tell me what feels right to you. Give me what and so I would bring the intuition, their intuition, into their own healing journey. And now you were making me think that I get why that works so well, because the patient needs to have a buy-in, an intuitive buy-in to their own healing experience because of exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
So have they done anything? We have a real, our traditional healthcare system would call this conversation quite woo-woo. So do we have examples? I know we have the old Norman Cousins, he laughed himself out of cancer and those kind of stories. Do we have any stories or evidence that you can heal yourself by starting with heart coherence?
Well, I guess it would depend how we talk about healing, right? There are many measurables in terms of, again, over 500 research papers. When I was putting the studies into the book, there were so many to choose from, Dr. Mindy. And again, The only reason we might call this woo-woo is because people are like, wow, there's a brain in the heart. I don't actually know this. But one thing we know for sure is a precursor to so many different illnesses is inflammation. And there's a lot of research around how heart coherence, again, is just bringing your body back into that entrainment and reduces inflammation. There's another incredible research paper here, which I reference in the book around, here it is. It's on page 35 of the hard copy. And this was measuring immunity. And this was a really interesting study where they brought people into the lab and they asked them to recall, Dr. Mindy, not actually be in anger, but recall something that made them angry for 5 minutes. So, remember when she said that to me, or my mother-in-law did this? And then also to recall care, right? Like, remember when I cared for my sick mother or whatever it was. So in both cases, the IgA, the secretory antibody for immunity, spiked. It's like that good stress, bad stress hormone.
Yeah.
But then for 6 hours, those that recalled anger, their IgA was down for 6 hours.
Wow.
This is 5 minutes, right? So one of the things, and it was elevated for 5 minutes with care. So back to what Dr. Roland McCready says, which is emotions run the show. When they were doing all these research papers, one of the things he said was 2 minutes of irritation puts into motion over 1,500 different biochemical processes, which ultimately drain your energy, which of course is the antithesis of, the opposite of healing and bringing efficiency and vitality back in. It's leaking it in so many ways. And the other research paper showing in 1 month, they found that people doing these practices, so not, having to go and, buy all these contraptions and buy everything to
Thank you.
1 month, cortisol on average went down 23%. And DHEA, the precursor hormone, basically measuring vitality and other incredible, for fertility, went up 100%. So I get so excited about this, Dr. Mindy, because again, back to this universality of we all have this heart and we're underutilizing it. We're not even connected to it, but it is something that we can learn to turn on. So the stages, do you want to get into them?
Yes, please. Yeah, go through. No, and I love what I hope everybody listening catches that. And what I'm really hoping in this kind of conversation, that what people are grabbing is there's so much more to healing than we have been taught. And that's what, when you quote these studies and you talk about the immune response, you talk about DHEA. This has been one of my real complaints about the menopause conversation is we're just talking about lathering creams and patches. And I'm like, no, there's something we're missing. We're missing something here. There's a bigger transformation. There's a bigger healing. So I just wanted to point that out.
I just got goosebumps when you said that, and it reminds me of something that's said in certain teachings. We're talking about this fire, right? Which is so much death and destruction, but there's also a rebirth that can happen. There's healing that happens afterwards. There's transformation. So in some teachings, they call the heart the organ of fire, meaning organ of transformation. So one of the ways that we can keep ourselves in this state of fight or flight and incoherence is anger and an ability to forgive. So there's a 6-part forgiveness practice that's based on research in the book about how we don't forgive through the head, right? We have to forgive through the heart, and through doing this and letting go of the energies that can keep us in pain, in inflammation, that keep us from really healing, right? There's so much I believe in healing that's just beyond the physical. We can still eat the right food. We can do all the things, but there's so much emotionally, spiritually, mentally that plays a role.
Yeah. I think, again, I just think that is the wave in which we should be moving in with healing in humanity. That we have all the technological healthcare that we could possibly dream up, and it's been incredible, but we have people sicker physically and mentally than ever before. So we've missed something. And this is why I like to have these different conversations.